Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Business Point on Global Television, your hub for topical discussions in the world of business, tech innovation, as well as government policies. I am Queen Agaba, and we apologize for the delay in bringing you Business Point today due to technical issues. But today, we turn our spotlights to stories shaping our economy, and we're looking at the growing crisis with profound economic, legal, and governance implications, the minimum wage crisis, and the impact of court closures in the Federal Capital Territory. In Abuja, significant disruptions have hit the judiciary and local government systems as workers protest the delayed implementation of the 70,000 naira national minimum wage. The Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JSUN, issued a 21-day ultimatum back in January demanding the full implementation of the new wage and other outstanding entitlements, with no resolution in sight. Federal courts, including the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and the FCT High Court, have now been shut down. Adding to the pressure, local government employees and primary school teachers across the 6 area councils in the FCT resumed an indefinite strike in February, citing broken promises by council chairmen who failed to implement the wage despite a signed agreement. Their demands include not only the 70,000 naira minimum wage, but also unpaid allowances and salary increments. These protests are not isolated. They reflect a broader national struggle following the 2024 general strike led by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the trade union. And that strike brought the country to a halt for over a month, forcing government commitment to wage increases, a promise that for many sectors remain unfulfilled. Well, what's the economic cost of locked courthouses and stalled public services? And how does this crisis affect investor confidence, business operations, and the rule of law in general? Joining me on the program to unpack these present issues is Olubenga George, who is an economic analyst. Many thanks for joining me on the program. Can you hear me? Well, we'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll be joined with our guest, Olubenga George. Please stay with us. Well, many thanks for staying with us on the program Business Point. We're now joined by Mr. Olubenga George, who is an economic analyst. Mr. Benga, many thanks for joining me on the program.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Prince. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Please, can you help us, understand how the delayed implementation of the 70,000 naira minimum wage has spiraled into the current wave of strikes and, institutional shutdown, particularly in the FCT?
Well, thank you very much. The issue of minimum wage, held sway almost throughout the year 2024. With a back and forth between the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress and the federal government of Nigeria. And the subject of conversation and discussion was what is the minimum wage? What is the acceptable minimum wage for the Nigerian worker? And of course, the back and forth was so much. Labour first insisted on 250,000. Later came down. And of course, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu offered 70,000 naira, which was accepted with some conditions and promises. As we speak, of course, we saw afterwards that state governments began to adopt this. Some began to implement it immediately with an increase of 10,000, 3,000, 5,000, according to their capacities. And before we go into the nitty-gritty, I'd like to state that the issue of minimum wage currently, as we speak, isn't just a federal government issue, even though we are coming back, like I said, to the issue of FCT, which, is direct responsibility of the federal government. State governments have their responsibilities. If you will remember that before the administration of President Tinubu, we had several, and that's the implementation of 30,000 naira minimum wage during the second term of President Muhammadu Buhari. We saw different states not being able to meet up with that obligation of, paying the agreed 30,000 naira minimum wage for several years, in that administration. And that spiraled into the economic hardships as we saw or we witnessed from the Nigerian workers. And to also note that the Nigerian state is not only a civil service state, so to speak. Less than 40% of Nigerians are employed in public service, which throws the remaining 60% at a dependent states. They have to depend on what those who earn salaries bring for them to be able to survive and thrive. So the entire situation, when you look at it already, is skewed against the Nigerian people. And it's therefore determines the level of poverty that is being witnessed, across world in Nigeria. We also see the large lacuna, that exists between the elites and the common Nigerian people, due to the fact that the elites have access, to our common patrimony, and they only continue to throw crumbs to those who are on the other side of the divide. So, for me, the Nigerian worker is also part of the people who earns from the crumbs of this country, the average Nigerian workers. And so, if we talk about economic hardship and the impact it has had, we do not need a soothsayer to tell us what state the Nigerian worker would be in. And the economic indices continue to indicate that even the average Nigerian, still lives below the poverty line. Nigeria, happens to, be maybe rated as some of the poorest countries in the world. If you are counting the first five, Nigeria is one of them. Those are very, very negative indices, considering what a country like Nigeria is and represents on the continent of Africa and the globe. We talk about the resources that exist within this country, both in mineral form and in liquid form. We talk about the human resources that exist in this country, and you juxtapose that with how the Nigerian people live, and you see that there has been rascality where leadership and what I call a sense of irresponsibility where leadership is concerned. The inability of our leaders to effectively harness the potentials of the Nigerian state, both in land and sea and in human resources, is the reason why we are here at the moment. And it's really sad. And one would only have expected that government after government will take advantage of these resources to give or to give the world a nation that is vibrant, a nation that is buoyant, and a people that are well taken care of. Also, we go to Section 14 of the Nigerian Constitution that mandates, the Nigerian government to be responsible for the welfare of its citizens. I mean, it is a primary responsibility of the government to ensure that lives and properties are protected and that the citizens live well and that they are able to fulfill themselves within the state. If we look at that responsibility and we juxtapose it with the reality of many Nigerians today, you would agree with me that almost all the successive governments that we have had, have not been able to live up to this expectation, hence the rewards and the results that we have. Now, coming to the impact of courts being shut down, it's a clear reflection of the, once again, I use this word without apology, irresponsibility of leadership, in the FCT. To think about the fact that the FCT has a budget that is over ₦1 trillion. Recently we saw the Minister of FCT, Governor Nyesom Wike, defend that budget at the National Assembly. And to also look at the infrastructures, which for me, is credit to him. I rather give credit, to the Minister of FCT, who has continued to, implement one infrastructural development or the other all across, the FCT. You see quite a lot of projects ongoing, and one continues to wonder who they intend, to build these facilities for. Is it when the people are dead? You made an allusion to teachers. In February, teachers have gone on strike since February in the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. It is very shameful. And I thought that those things would actually be the priority of the government instead of infrastructure. Infrastructure is important. Yes, we need it. Those are some of the things that, we require or we request that citizens do need. But can we ask ourselves, who are they? Who is expected to travel on those roads or to use the infrastructures that are being provided? Is it not human beings? When these human beings cannot live up to basic standards, when they cannot eat well, when they cannot clothe well, when they cannot live in decent apartments, then who do they expect to use the infrastructures that have been constructed in the FCT and across Nigeria? So again, it goes to the subject I say is the irresponsibility of leadership. Our leaders rather prefer to misplace priority. And while you are asking me an economic question, I cannot divorce this economic question from a political question because they go hand in hand. Yes, I know you want me to read out the figures. The courts are shut down since they have been shut down since yesterday. JUSUN is on strike, and then teachers haven't also been going to school, and all of that. And maybe in the course of the conversation we get to that, but I'm just pained, by the fact that we have the Federal Capital Territory, we are running a 15 trillion naira budget, for the year 2025, over 15 trillion naira. I mean, all of these figures going to gigantic white elephant projects. I call them white elephants because sometimes, and for the records, the country never gets to, implement some of these projects to the fullest, and then the monies have been taken away, and then they never get to come back. We never get to see them. So they are white elephant projects as far as I'm concerned. Projects that you cannot complete within a short term, but has got the entire resources of the country. And you now leave the people to live in penury. That is irresponsibility at its peak. And I would have expected more from the current administration of President Ahmed Tinubu.
Oh, well, Mr. Gbenga, you practically answered most of these questions. But I was going to ask what this tells us about the Nigerian government's fiscal readiness and sincerity in honoring, wage-related agreement with all of the issues we've had with labor unions. But let me ask you, you made mention of that already. What are the costs, not just in terms of money, but in terms of governance, service, service delivery, and then public trust? What is this costing us, and what are the ways forward?
Well, it is obvious that it continues to widen the gap, between leadership and followership in this country. With the way politics has presented, politicians have presented themselves, they have continued to create a barricade, for people who really want to come in to understand what the concept of governance is. They do not feel the impact of governance. Everything is swallowed in the ocean of politicking, and it's really sad. People, the immediate impact is that people will continue to lose confidence in government. This will in turn lead to, and once people lose confidence in government, it heightens the insecurity risks that we are talking about in this country. Because one of the major demons, that is plaguing the country at the moment is insecurity. And if you trace it back to how did it start? How did the recruitment start? You remember back in the days in 2011, 12, 13, how Boko Haram would practically go to people's houses, in the northeast to knock and offer them 10,000, 20,000 to come and join them. And the people had no jobs. They joined. So it is advancing now, and what we now have is kidnapping, right? And then you see that people know that they can kidnap someone and make 50 million and make 100 million. Why would they do it? So you see that the issue of insecurity, that is the first thing, we continue to increase. And it will make the efforts of the government, to go into futility. So you are fighting on one hand, but the efforts will continue to be subsumed and submerged by the ineffectiveness of the fight that you're fighting. So you are investing and you expect your investment to be protected. You expect the people, to be part of the program, because the people that want to be secured, have to be part of the process. They have to believe, that you are actually trying to secure them, that you are trying to fight for their interests, that you are trying to protect their lives. But when they do not do that, you already know the aftermath effect. So you see that people, will begin to also take laws into their hands, and it can come in different forms. Insecurity, heightened insecurity in different forms as well. We've not spoken about armed robbery for some time, but you begin to see it. I mean, we've not spoken about certain things for some time, but if this system continues, people will take laws into their hands. People want to survive. That is what the Nigerian people just want to do. They just want to survive, and they will survive by any means, even if it's at the expense of the efforts of government. They will continue to frustrate the efforts of government, and all the investments, will continue to go to waste. Because let's even talk about it. Infrastructures, that have been constructed. And some time ago, I went in a particular direction within the FCT, and there was light in the night, and I was like, wow, this place is well lit up. The FCT is trying. And then just some weeks after, about a month after that, I traveled the same road. And around the same time, the whole place was dark. What happened? The light infrastructure, that was placed there had been vandalized. People had come to steal it. Yes, we know that these are criminal elements. We know that, but we also know that it's a failure of government. If people are beautifully engaged, if people are profitably engaged, they will not continue to find themselves in such situations. And even when others see them do it, they will report it. But
All
the
right.
watchdog that the citizens need to be, they cannot assume that position because they are also victims of the same circumstances. They just want to survive. So it heightens the level of insecurity in the state, in the country. It wastes government resources because people will continue to vandalize in order for them to be able to survive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olubenga George. Incidentally, that's how much we can take on the program. But we'd definitely love to have you again because we cannot overemphasize the importance of, having to learn and unpack these issues that are rising. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope that you join us again on Business Point.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day ahead.
You too.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains on Business Point today. You can download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to rewatch our broadcast and your favorite programs on Global TV. Don't forget to follow us across all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. You can also watch Global Television on DSTV channel 365, on Star Times channel 276, and free to air on Nightcomsat. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching and see you again.